Hi, I'm Enchanting Nubia Net. Welcome back. And if you're viewing my channel for the first time, welcome. This news story is heartbreaking. Stephanie Diane Dowells, a supportive wife, made the effort to visit her husband for a conjugal visit. Unfortunately for her, her husband placed his hands around her neck and she passed away. Back in November 2024, a tragic incident occurred at the Mule Creek State Prison in Ione, California. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, where 62-year-old Stephanie Brinson was deceased due to a homicide. Her passing happened during a conjugal visit with her husband, David Brinson. Now, David is 54 years old. He had his hands on her neck, blocking her airflow. Previously, David Brinson has been serving, he has been serving 4 consecutive life sentences. This is without the possibility of parole for the 1990 M ending in R's crime of 4 men during a robbery in Los Angeles. David Brinson has a long history that is violent. In the case I just mentioned, he used a weapon close range as the men were face down. Back to the current news. According to a report, David contacted prison officials around 2 a.m. on November 13th, claiming that Stephanie had passed out during their visit. Now, despite immediate life-saving efforts by officers and paramedics, she was pronounced unalive shortly thereafter, and the Amador County coroner later determined the cause of D to be S-ulation. Again, my perspective, it was a blatant homicide. Stephanie Brinson, also known as Stephanie Dowells, was a small business owner, hairstylist, a mother of 2 with 6 grandchildren. They're all young. While viewing photos of Stephanie and all of her grandkids, this case is even more heartbreaking. It's apparent that she was loved and fully adored by her kids and grandchildren. Her family has expressed devastation, and they are seeking answers regarding how this incident could occur, especially given David's violent history. Now, Stephanie's son, Armand Torres, 28, and his wife, Natalie Jimenez, told NBC News that Brinson's account of events kept on changing in the days following her passing. He even mixed up or confused the time and location where she was found unconscious. He would say, she passed out on the floor, or she was passed out on the bed, Jimenez said in an interview. Now, Stephanie Dowells lived in Inglewood, California, with her son, Armand, his partner, Natalie Jimenez, and their 3-year-old son, who even called Brinson Grandpa. The couple had allowed their son to accompany Dowells on 2 prison visits in recent years. This is even more horrendous, for this man to be so close to a family and he does this extreme evil act. Armand Torres said in quotes, "If I could trust him with my kid, I'm thinking it's a green light, like everything's fine," end of quotes. Torres admitted that he sometimes worried about his mother being involved with an incarcerated person, but he wanted to support her happiness like most children do. Listen to this. He was unaware, we know that Brinson is not his father, but he was unaware of that he was convicted of 4 of those horrendous crimes. This is something that anyone who is dating someone who has a history, and especially if you're married to someone, you should definitely let your family know. Her son said he questioned the prison protocols, asking in quotes, "How could they let this happen? I just don't get it." End of quotes. The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, the CDCR, stated that family visits are a privilege granted to inmates who demonstrate sustained good behavior and meet specific program requirements. These visits are designed to support positive family connections and successful rehabilitation. Definitely they are, but discernment has to be used when giving these conjugal visits to certain offenders. Now, conjugal visits, everyone, is extended family visits only permitted in certain states in the US. So it's only California, Connecticut, New York, and Washington. No federal prisons have them. But it makes sense because, in my opinion, New York and California tends to be so lenient in their standards. So it does make sense that these 2 states would be included. And it's not a positive thing, as we can see with this case. However, eligibility for these visits are strictly regulated. It's supposed to be. Inmates must demonstrate good behavior and be classified as low risk. Well, everyone, we all know that there is a percentage of criminals who are doing their best to stay in line, genuinely reform so they can leave jail and start a new life. However, those other criminals, they may act like a decent human, but when they must interact with other people, their emotions aren't able to handle compromise, talking things out, and they're very charismatic. And from what I gather when reading the articles and listening to the news footage, he and Stephanie, they actually had an argument over some topic. I'm not sure what it was. Many offenders don't have the coping mechanisms to have consistent, peaceful relationships. So they really need to be supervised at all times. However, eligibility, everyone, for people who really deserve it, it's going to be more stringent right now because of this case, believe you me. So as of now, pertaining to this case, the investigation into Stephanie's passing is ongoing and no charges have been filed. The Amador County District Attorney's Office has yet to receive reports from the prison to make a charging decision. Maybe they had conjugal visits with BDSM style intimacy. However, I doubt it because I believe that, she did participate in Bible studies and she was more of a religious or spiritual woman. Or perhaps he became so irate and demonstrated his usual temper and erratic behavior. And I say that because this man has committed M with 4 people previously. So this is another lesson to everyone, especially to women. Women, it's so important to choose better men. Choices determine your destiny. I truly wish that she made the decision to date and marry a gentleman, a man who had integrity, compassion, and upstanding behavior and character. Why is this criminal who committed horrible crimes 4 times having the luxury of those conjugal visits? Even before this crime, no felon with this type of record should have these pleasures, in my opinion. If I was in charge, he would only be able to have visits that consisted of conversations and holding hands through a gate.